I had 48 hours before the church made it permanent and the woman I'd abandoned God for vanished with everything I'd sacrificed. My hand shook just enough to make the priest collar fall from my fingers as I tried to pack it away. The white plastic felt too light for something that used to define my entire life, like it might break before I could box it up forever. Around me, my apartment hummed with the heavy silence of absence, no footsteps in the hallway, no keys in the door, no voice calling my name like it used to. Outside, February rain beat against the window overlooking St. Anthony's Church across the street. But in here, everything was still, too still, choking me with the weight of mistakes I couldn't undo. I approached my coffee table like I was walking toward my own funeral. The church papers sat there waiting, official documents that would end Father Michael Torres in 48 hours. 8 years of priesthood reduced to a signature on a form. The collar I'd worn every Sunday now just a piece of plastic collecting dust. My phone lay next to the papers, screen lit with 18 missed calls from my mother. All from yesterday. All since the news broke. She hadn't spoken to me in 18 months, not since the day I told her I was leaving the priesthood for a woman. But now she was calling. Over and over. The kind of calling that meant she knew something had gone terribly wrong. Across the room, the wedding photo sat on the shelf where Elena had placed it. Us at City Hall. Small ceremony. No church. No blessing. Just vows we'd made to each other while God watched me break every promise I'd made to him. She looked beautiful in that photo. Dark hair falling over her shoulders. Sad smile that made you want to fix whatever hurt her. The kind of smile that made a priest forget his vows. She looked like a woman in love. She wasn't. 24 hours ago, I'd come home early from teaching high school theology and found a man in our living room. A man Elena said was her brother, visiting from Italy, just passing through. But Elena didn't have a brother. And the man looked exactly like the husband she'd buried 5 years ago. Marcus Moretti. Dead from a hiking accident in the mountains. That's what brought Elena to St. Anthony's grief support group on a Tuesday night 3 years ago. That's where I met her. That's how I fell for a widow's pain and thought helping her heal was my calling. Except Marcus wasn't dead. He was sitting on my couch yesterday, very much alive, discussing business with my wife like I was a stranger in my own home. The grief group at St. Anthony's wasn't really about grief for Elena. It was about access. All those broken people looking for comfort, looking for guidance, looking for someone who understood their suffering. And I'd brought her right to them. Introduced her to every widow. Every grieving parent. Every person too lost in pain to see they were being hunted. She'd stolen from them. Robbed them while they cried about their losses. Used their trust, my trust, to take everything. I picked up the collar again, felt the weight of 8 years in my hands. 8 years of being Father Michael. Of hearing confessions in the dark. Of standing at the altar transforming bread and wine. Of making promises to God I'd sworn I'd keep until I died. Then Elena walked into that grief group with tears in her eyes and a story about losing her husband, and suddenly 8 years of promises felt like a prison I hadn't chosen. She'd made me feel seen. Understood. Like maybe I wasn't meant to be alone forever in an empty rectory talking to God and getting silence back. I'd left it all for her. My vocation. My community. My mother's love. My identity. Everything I was. And she disappeared 24 hours ago. Phone disconnected. Counseling office cleaned out. Apartment cleared of her things. Every trace of Elena Moretti erased like she'd been a dream I'd had and woke up from. Leaving me holding church documents that would make my fall permanent, a mother who wouldn't answer my calls back, and the crushing knowledge that the woman I'd traded God for was a con artist who'd been playing me since the moment we met. 2 days until the papers were filed. 2 days until Father Michael Torres stopped existing. 2 days until I couldn't take it back even if I wanted to. And somewhere out there, Elena was gone. With Marcus. Her not dead husband. Running whatever scam they'd run on me and my church. I'd thought I was saving her from grief. Turned out she was just robbing everyone I tried to save. And I'd handed her the keys to do it. The collar sat in my hands, a ghost of who I used to be, a reminder of every promise I'd broken. For a woman who'd never been real at all. Just a performance. A script. A trap designed for a lonely priest who wanted to feel loved so badly he'd ignored every warning sign. 2 days to live with what I'd done. 2 days before it all became forever. 2 days before the man I used to be disappeared completely. And all I had left was the truth I'd been too desperate to see. She'd left me long before I'd ever left God. I'd just been too blind to notice I was already alone. I left school early because half my students were at a basketball game and the substitute could handle the remaining class. It was 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Elena's car was in the parking lot, which was weird because Thursdays were her long counseling days. She usually didn't get home until 7. I unlocked our apartment door and heard voices from the living room. Elena's voice. And a man's voice I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I called out, stepping inside. They stopped talking immediately. Elena appeared in the doorway looking flustered, her hair messier than usual, her smile too bright. "Michael. You're home early. Half day. Who's here?" "Oh, just," she glanced back toward the living room. "My brother. From Italy. He's visiting. I was going to tell you." I followed her into the living room and stopped dead. The man sitting on our couch stood up when he saw me. Tall, dark hair graying at the temples, the kind of weathered face that came from too much sun or too much stress. He wore jeans and a worn leather jacket. I'd seen that face before. In photos. In the memorial picture Elena kept on her dresser for the first year we knew each other. "This is Marco," Elena said quickly. "Marco, this is my husband Michael." "Marco," I repeated slowly. "Your brother Marco?" "Yes." Her voice was steady but her hands weren't. She was twisting her wedding ring, the nervous habit she had when she lied to her counseling clients about having an opening in her schedule. "Elena." I looked at the man, then back at her. "You told me you didn't have any siblings. You said you were an only child." It's complicated. We were estranged." "I didn't think." "That's Marcus," I interrupted. "Your husband Marcus. The one who died 5 years ago." The room went silent except for the rain hitting the window. The man, Marcus, looked at Elena. She looked at the floor. "I can explain," she started. "Then explain." "Because that looks exactly like the man from your memorial photos. The man you cried about for 2 years. The man who supposedly fell off a mountain in Italy." My voice was getting louder. "So explain how your dead husband is sitting on our couch." Marcus spoke for the first time, his accent thick. "I should go." "No." I stepped in front of the door. "Nobody's going anywhere until someone tells me what the hell is happening." Elena's facade cracked. Her shoulders dropped. The bright smile disappeared. When she looked up at me, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Guilt. Real, actual guilt. "Michael, I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "And then I need to go." "Tell me what?" She took a breath. "Marcus isn't dead. He never was." The world tilted. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. "What?" "He faked his death. 5 years ago. For reasons I can't explain right now." She was talking fast, words tumbling out like she'd been holding them in too long. "I knew. I've always known. The whole widow thing, it was a story. A cover." "A cover for what?" She didn't answer. Just looked at Marcus, who was watching her with an expression I couldn't read. "Elena. A cover for what?" "I can't tell you. But you need to know." She stopped, started again. "We're not really married. You and me. Legally, I mean. I'm still married to Marcus. I never divorced him because he was never actually dead. So our marriage, it's It's not valid. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what she was saying. You knew, I said slowly. This whole time. 2 years of grief group. 2 years of me helping you heal. 18 months of marriage. You knew he was alive. Yes. Did you ever? My voice broke. Was any of it real? She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the answer before she spoke. I'm sorry, she whispered. I have to go. I'm so sorry. She grabbed her purse from the table, her phone, her keys. Marcus was already at the door. Elena, wait. I'm sorry, Michael. For everything. She stopped. Shook her head. I'm sorry. And then they were gone. Just like that. Out the door, down the stairs, their footsteps fading until there was nothing but silence and the sound of my own breathing. I stood in the empty living room where 2 minutes ago my wife and her supposedly dead husband had been sitting, and tried to understand how my entire life had just been revealed as a lie. The memorial photo was still on our bookshelf. Marcus, smiling in the Italian mountains. Very much alive in my apartment 5 minutes ago. And Elena was gone. 2 years ago, Elena walked into St. Anthony's grief support group on a Tuesday night in September, and I didn't know she was about to destroy my life. The group met in the church basement every week. Fluorescent lights that hummed too loud. Metal folding chairs in a circle. Coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning Massachusetts. I ran the group as part of my duties. Helped people process loss. Reminded them God hadn't abandoned them even when it felt like he had. Elena sat in the back wearing all black. Dark hair pulled into a messy bun. Eyes red from crying. She didn't introduce herself that first night. Just listened while others shared their stories. Afterward, while I was putting chairs away, she approached me. Father Torres. Her voice was quiet, broken. Can I talk to you? We sat in the empty church. Just the two of us and the votive candles flickering near the altar. My husband died 3 months ago, she said. Hiking accident in Italy. The Dolomites. He fell. They found his body at the bottom of a ravine. She wiped her eyes. Everyone keeps telling me it gets easier. Does it? I'd heard that question 100 times. Usually, I had an answer. Something about time and healing and faith. But looking at her pain, the words felt hollow. I don't know, I admitted. I've never lost someone like that. But I've sat with a lot of people who have. And they say it doesn't get easier. Just different. She looked at me like I'd said something profound instead of just honest. Thank you for not lying to me, she said. That's how it started. Just a priest trying to help someone in pain. She came back the next Tuesday. And the Tuesday after that. Started sharing in group about Marcus. How they'd met in college. How he'd loved hiking. How the mountains had killed him doing what he loved. After meetings, we'd talk while I cleaned up. About grief. About faith. About how hard it was to believe in a loving God when terrible things happen to good people. Do you ever doubt? She asked one night. Like, really doubt? Not just the little questions. The big ones. I should have said no. Should have given her the priest answer about faith being tested but never broken. Instead, I said, every day. Her eyes met mine. Really? Really? Faith isn't the absence of doubt. It's choosing to believe despite it. She smiled for the first time since I'd met her. That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in months. Months passed. Autumn turned to winter. The group became the highlight of my week. Not because of the group. Because of Elena. I started thinking about her between Tuesdays. Wondering if she was okay. Rehearsing things to say that might help her heal. Looking forward to our conversations like they were something precious instead of just pastoral care. One Tuesday in January, she stayed late while I locked up the church. I think I'm starting to feel human again, she said. Because of these talks. Because of you. I'm glad I can help. It's more than help, Michael. She'd started calling me Michael instead of Father Torres sometime around November. You make me feel less alone. I should have recognized the danger in that moment. Should have stepped back, created distance, remembered my vows. Instead, I said, you make me feel less alone too. The words hung between us in the empty church. Is that allowed? She asked quietly. For a priest to feel alone? We're human. We feel everything everyone else feels. We're just not supposed to act on it. What if, she stopped. Started again. What if I told you I think about you when I'm not here? That I look forward to Tuesdays more than any other day? My heart was pounding. Elena. I know. I know you can't. I know it's wrong. I just needed to say it out loud once. She grabbed her coat. I should go. Wait. She turned back. I should have said goodbye. Should have told her not to come back. Should have protected us both from what was about to happen. Instead, I said, I think about you too. All the time. And I don't know what to do about it. Her eyes filled with tears. Me neither. We stood there in the church I'd served for 6 years, and I felt my vows starting to crack under the weight of something I'd never expected to feel. I was falling for her. A grieving widow who made me feel seen in ways God never had. And I had no idea how to stop it. Didn't know if I even wanted to. That was the night everything changed. The night I stopped being just her priest and became something dangerous. Someone who wanted her more than he wanted to keep his promises to God. I just didn't know yet that every word she'd said was a lie. That Marcus was alive. That her grief was performance. That I was being played. I thought we were falling in love. Turned out I was just falling. And she was pushing. 1 year after Elena first walked into grief group, she told me she'd fallen in love with me. We were sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the church. Neutral territory. We'd started meeting there instead of talking after group because people had started noticing how long we stayed after everyone else left. I need to tell you something, she said, staring at her untouched latte. And then I think I need to stop coming to group. My stomach dropped. Why? Did something happen? Yes. Something happened. She looked up at me. I fell in love with you. The coffee shop noise, the espresso machine hissing, people talking, music playing, all of it faded into background static. Elena. I know you can't feel the same way. I know your vows. I know it's impossible. Her voice was shaking. But I needed you to tell you. Meeting you, these talks, this friendship, it made me believe in living again. After Marcus died, I thought I'd never feel anything but pain. Then I met you. And you made me feel human again. Made me feel like maybe life could be good again. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just needed to be honest. And now I need to stop coming around because being near you and not being able to. She trailed off. I can't do it anymore. She stood up. Grabbed her coat. Elena, wait. I'm sorry, Michael. For putting you in this position. For feeling things I shouldn't feel. I'll find another grief group. I feel it too, I said. She froze halfway into her coat. What? I feel it too. Everything you just said. I feel it too. The words poured out like a confession. I think about you constantly. I look forward to Tuesdays like they're the only day worth living. I pray about it. Try to make it stop. But it doesn't stop. It just gets stronger. She sat back down slowly. What do we do? I don't know. You're right. My vows, I can't just break them because I have feelings. I made promises to God. I know. But I also can't pretend this isn't happening. That I'm not feeling something I've never felt before. So what do we do? She asked again. We stop seeing each other. Completely. No coffee. No talks. You find another group. I focus on my vows. We let this fade. Okay. Her eyes filled with tears. Okay. We said goodbye in that coffee shop. I watched her walk away. Told myself it was the right thing. The only thing. It lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of me going through the motions at church. Saying Massachusetts hearing confessions. Lying to everyone who asked if I was okay. 3 weeks of praying for the feelings to go away. They didn't go away. They got worse. On the third Tuesday without Elena at group, I left early. Drove to the coffee shop. Sat there until closing hoping she'd show up. She didn't. But I knew then, I couldn't do this. Couldn't go back to life without her in it. The life I'd been living for 8 years suddenly felt like a prison I'd built myself into. I called my spiritual director the next morning. Father Martin. An old priest who'd guided me through seminary. I need to talk to you about something serious, I said. We met that afternoon at his parish. I'm having feelings for someone, I told him. A woman from my grief group. Elena. And I don't know how to make them stop. Father Martin listened without judgment while I explained everything. The friendship. The talks. The confession in the coffee shop. Have you acted on these feelings? He asked. No. We said goodbye. Haven't seen her in 3 weeks. And how do you feel? Like I'm dying. Like every day without her is worse than the day before. He was quiet for a long time. Michael, feelings aren't sin. Feelings are human. The question is, do you believe God is calling you to leave the priesthood? I don't know. How do I know the difference between God's calling and just wanting something? That's what discernment is for. Prayer. Reflection. Honesty with yourself and with God. He leaned forward. But I need to warn you, if you choose to pursue this, you'll be leaving everything. Your vocation. Your community. The life you've built. Are you prepared for that cost? I don't know. Then you need to find out. Before you make a decision that can't be undone. I spent the next 6 months in agony. Praying every morning for clarity. Seeing a therapist. Talking to Father Martin weekly. Reading everything I could about priests who'd left. And avoiding Elena completely. Because I knew if I saw her, I'd make the decision based on feeling instead of discernment. But every day without her felt wrong. Every mass felt hollow. Every time I put on my collar, it felt like I was wearing someone else's clothes. 6 months later, I made the call. Elena? It's Michael. Can we talk? I thought we weren't supposed to. I know. But I need to see you. Please. We met at the same coffee shop. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. Like the past 6 months had been hard for her too. I'm leaving, I told her. The priesthood. I'm starting the process. It takes time, but I'm leaving. Michael, you don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it just for you. I'm doing it for me. Because I realized I'd rather have one real day with you than a lifetime of pretending I don't love you. She started crying. Are you sure? She whispered. No. I'm terrified. But I'm sure about this, I can't be Father Michael anymore. I need to just be Michael. And see what happens. She reached across the table and took my hand. And I felt my entire future shift. Didn't know yet it was all a lie. That she'd planned this from the beginning. That I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was choosing love. I was just choosing the trap she'd set. The 6 months of discernment were the worst of my life. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. like I'd done for 8 years. Say morning prayers. Feel nothing. Go through the motions of being Father Michael while knowing I was about to stop being him forever. Every morning I asked God for a sign. Some clear answer. Lightning bolt. Burning bush. Anything. Got silence. Father Martin met with me every Wednesday. How are you feeling today? Like I'm betraying God. And like staying would be betraying myself. Both at the same time. That's discernment. It's supposed to be hard. I saw a therapist too. Dr. Patricia Chen. Not Catholic, which helped. She didn't care about vows or vocations. Just asked questions. Do you love being a priest? I used to. And now? Now it feels like wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. When did that change? When I met Elena. She wrote something in her notebook. And if Elena wasn't in the picture? Would you still want to leave? That was the question that haunted me. Was I leaving for her? Or was she just showing me I'd been unhappy all along? I didn't have an answer. I talked to other priests who'd left. Found them online. Called them at night when nobody from church could hear. One guy, Father Tom, ex-Father Tom, had left 15 years ago for a woman. Now married with 3 kids. Do you regret it? I asked him. Every single day I wake up and remember I'm not a priest anymore. Yeah, I regret it. But then I see my wife and my kids and I don't regret it. Both things are true at the same time. Does that ever get easier? No. You just get used to carrying it. After 6 months, I made my decision. I requested a meeting with the bishop. Formal. Official. I'm requesting to leave the priesthood, I told him. I've been discerning for 6 months. This is what I need to do. Bishop Walsh looked sad. Disappointed. Is there a woman involved? Yes. But it's more than that. I don't think I'm called to this anymore. You're making a mistake, Michael. These feelings will fade. The priesthood is forever. I know what I'm giving up. Do you? Your vocation. Your community. Your identity. Everything you've built for 8 years. I know. He sighed. Then I'll start the paperwork. It takes time. A year, maybe more. But if this is what you want, it's what I need. Telling the parish was harder. I announced it on a Sunday after Massachusetts stood at the altar where I'd stood hundreds of times and said the words that would end it all. I'm leaving the priesthood. I've been discerning this for months. It's not a decision I made lightly. But I believe God is calling me to a different path. The church went silent. Some people cried. Mrs. Chen, who I'd baptized her grandchildren. Mr. Rodriguez, whose wife's funeral I'd done last year. Others looked angry. Betrayed. Like I'd personally failed them. After Mass, a few people came up to hug me. Told me they understood. Wished me well. Most avoided eye contact. Left quickly. I'd hear later they felt I'd abandoned them. Calling my mom was the worst. Mom, I need to tell you something. What's wrong? I'm leaving the priesthood. Silence. Long, terrible silence. Why? Her voice was ice. I met someone. And I don't think I'm called to be a priest anymore. You met someone? You're picking sex over God? Over everything I sacrificed to put you through seminary? It's not about sex, Mom. It's about love. About being human. About being selfish. About breaking promises you made to God. About throwing away everything you worked for because some woman. Her name is Elena. And I love her. You don't know what love is. You know what lust is. And you're destroying your soul for it. Mom, please. Don't call me again until you've come to your senses. She hung up. I tried calling back. She didn't answer. Sent texts. Nothing. My mother, who'd been so proud when I was ordained, wouldn't speak to me anymore. The church held a goodbye mass for me. They called it a celebration of my years of service. Felt like a funeral. I stood there while people thanked me for my service. Told me they'd pray for me. Some meant it kindly. Others meant it like a threat. Father Rodriguez, who was replacing me, gave a speech about vocations being sacred calls that shouldn't be abandoned lightly. Everyone knew he was talking about me. I took off my collar for the last time in front of everyone. Handed it to Bishop Walsh. Walked out of St. Anthony's as just Michael Torres. Not Father Michael. Just Michael. A man without a purpose. Without a community. Without a mother who'd speak to him. But with Elena waiting outside in her car. She hugged me while I cried. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No. But I will be." "You sure you want this? Want me?" I looked at her. The woman I'd given up everything for. "I'm sure." I wasn't sure of anything. But I'd burned every bridge. Cut every tie. Made it permanent. There was no going back now. Only forward. Into a life I didn't know how to live. With a woman I thought I knew. But didn't know at all. 18 months after I left the priesthood, I thought I'd finally found my place in the world. We got married at City Hall. Small ceremony. Just us and 2 strangers as witnesses. Elena wore a simple white dress. I wore the only suit I owned that wasn't black. No church. No priest. No God watching. Just us making promises to each other. I got a job teaching theology at Lincoln High School. Public school. The kids called me Mr. Torres, not Father. Asked questions about religion like it was history, not truth. It was strange at first. But I got used to it. Elena ran her grief counseling practice out of a small office downtown. Helped people process loss. Used everything she'd learned from her own grief over Marcus. I should have seen it then. Should have noticed how good she was at performing sadness. How easily she could cry on command. But I was too busy being grateful. Grateful I'd chosen her. Grateful we'd made it work. We lived in a small apartment. 1 bedroom. Kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. Nothing like the rectory I'd lived in for 8 years. But it was ours. Some days were hard. I'd see a church and feel phantom pain where my vocation used to be. Like losing a limb. The absence of it always there. But then I'd come home to Elena and remember why I'd left. She made coffee exactly how I liked it. Fell asleep with her head on my shoulder watching TV. Laughed at my terrible jokes about theology. Made me feel like being just Michael was enough. My mom still wouldn't talk to me. I'd call on holidays. She'd let it go to voicemail. I'd leave messages saying I loved her. She never called back. My old friends from the priesthood had mostly stopped reaching out. A few checked in occasionally. Asked how I was doing with that tone people use when they're really asking, "Do you regret it yet?" I didn't regret it. I'd made my choice. Given up being Father Michael to be Elena's husband. And most days, that felt right. Until the Thursday I came home early and found Marcus in our living room. Until Elena's face went pale and I knew something was wrong. Until she said, "I need to tell you something," and my entire world started crumbling. Marcus isn't dead. He never was. Those words kept echoing in my head after they left. I stood in our empty apartment trying to process what she'd said. Marcus wasn't dead. Elena was never a widow. Our marriage wasn't legal. She was still married to him. I grabbed my phone. Called her. Went straight to voicemail. Tried again. Same thing. I opened my laptop. Started searching. Marcus Moretti Death Italy like I'd done once when we first met, curious about the man she'd lost. Back then, I'd found nothing. No obituary. No news article. Just Elena's story. Now I knew why. Because it never happened. I searched, Elena Moretti fraud. Nothing. Marcus Moretti gambling. Nothing. Whoever they were, they'd covered their tracks well. I called the office where she ran her grief counseling practice. A number I'd called hundreds of times. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. My hands started shaking. I drove to her office. 10th floor of a building downtown. Suite 1047. The door was locked. Through the window, I could see it was empty. Desk gone. Files gone. Everything gone. Like she'd never been there at all. I drove back home. Sat in our apartment. Their apartment now, I guess. Since our marriage wasn't real. Looked around at 18 months of life together. The couch we'd picked out together. The photos on the wall. The coffee maker she'd bought me for my birthday. Were any of those moments real? Or was I just a mark the whole time? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Torres? This is Detective Sarah Mitchell from the FBI. We need to talk about Elena Moretti. Or whatever she told you her name was. My stomach dropped. The FBI. Can you come to our office tomorrow morning? 9 a.m. We have some questions about your wife's counseling practice. And about her husband Marcus. He's alive. I just met him today. We know. We've been looking for him for 3 years. And we think your wife has been helping him run a very successful con operation. Targeting churches. Targeting grieving people. A pause. Targeting you. She used me. Yes. And we need your help to stop her before she does it to someone else. She gave me the address. Hung up. I sat there as the sun set. As the apartment got dark. As everything I'd thought was real revealed itself as performance. I'd left the priesthood for this. Given up God. My mother. My vocation. Everything. For a woman who'd been lying from the first word she ever said to me. The grief group. The dead husband. The falling in love. The marriage. All of it scripted. Planned. Executed perfectly. And I'd played my part exactly like she'd wanted. The lonely priest desperate to feel chosen. I'd been so easy to manipulate. So easy to destroy. And somewhere out there, Elena and Marcus were probably laughing about how well it had worked. How they'd gotten a priest to abandon God. And stolen from his church in the process. I looked at my wedding ring. Pulled it off. Set it on the table next to the church papers. Both of them lies now. Both of them promises that were never real. I'd destroyed my life for nothing. Absolutely nothing. The FBI office was downtown in a building that looked like every other office building until you walked inside and saw the security. Detective Sarah Mitchell met me in the lobby. 40-something, tired eyes, the kind of cop who'd seen too much. Mr. Torres. Thank you for coming. She led me to a conference room. Spread files across the table. How much do you know about your wife's past? She asked. Apparently nothing. She opened the first file. Showed me a photo of Elena. Different hair color. Different name. Catherine Walsh. Portland, Oregon. 3 years ago. Ran a grief counseling practice. Met a widower named Father Patrick O'Brien at a church grief group. He left the priesthood for her 6 months later. Married her. She cleaned out his bank account and disappeared after 8 months. My stomach turned. She opened another file. Sarah Davidson. Nashville, Tennessee. 4 years ago. Same pattern. Methodist pastor named Reverend James Mitchell. Left his church for her. She stole $40,000 from the church building fund and vanished. Another file. Lisa Romano. Chicago. 5 years ago. Catholic priest. Father David Chen. Same story. I stared at the photos. 3 different women. All Elena's face. She's done this before, I said numbly. She and Marcus have been running this con for at least 6 years that we know of. Probably longer. They target religious leaders. Priests, pastors, rabbis. People who are lonely, isolated, bound by vows they're struggling with. How does it work? Marcus fakes his death. Different method each time. Hiking accident. Car crash. Drowning. Elena shows up at a church as a grieving widow. Joins a support group. Targets whoever's running it, usually a religious leader. Spends months building trust. Makes them fall in love. Convinces them to leave their vocation. Once they're isolated from their community, she gains access to their congregation. Vulnerable people. Grieving people. She counsels them. Gets them to make her beneficiary of insurance policies, give her access to bank accounts, loan her money. Then she and Marcus disappear. How much did she take from my church? Mitchell pulled out another file. We're still calculating. But preliminary interviews suggest at least 150,000. Maybe more. The room spun. From who? She showed me names. People I knew. People I'd introduced to Elena. Mrs. Patricia Chen. Widow. Lost her husband 2 years ago. $45,000 from her insurance payout. Gone. Mr. Robert Martinez. Lost his daughter. $30,000 he'd been saving for her college fund. Elena convinced him to invest it. Gone. Sarah Williams. Lost her son. $25,000 from his life insurance. Gone. On and on. 12 names. 12 people I'd known. 12 people I'd brought to Elena because I thought she could help them. Oh God, I whispered. I did this. I introduced her to all of them. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have checked. Should have, I stopped. They trusted her because of me. Because Father Michael vouched for her. That was the plan. You were the access point. Your credibility got her in the door. Where's the money now? Offshore accounts probably. We're tracking it. But recovery is difficult. I looked at the files. All those faces. All that pain. These people from Portland and Nashville and Chicago, did they get their money back? Some of it. Not all. The Morettas are very good at hiding assets. What happened to the religious leaders? The ones who left for her? Mitchell's expression softened. Father O'Brien went back to the church. They wouldn't take him back as a priest. Last I heard he's working at a Catholic bookstore. Reverend Mitchell tried to start over at a new church. Didn't work out. He's doing construction now. Father Chen. She paused. Took his own life 6 months after she left him. The words hit like a punch. Father Chen. Dead. Because of what Elena did to him. I started. No. Don't go there. You're a victim too. I'm not a victim. I destroyed people's lives. I brought a thief into my church. I vouched for her. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Michael Torres? A woman's voice I didn't recognize. Yes. This is Bishop Walsh's office. Your paperwork has been finalized. You're scheduled to sign tomorrow at 10 a.m. After that, it's official. You'll no longer be a priest in the Catholic Church. I understand. You have 48 hours if you want to change your mind. After that, it's permanent. She hung up. I looked at Mitchell. I have 2 days before I stop being a priest forever. Do you want to be a priest? I don't know what I want anymore. I just know I destroyed everything for a woman who was using me from the first day we met. Mitchell gathered her files. We need your help building a case against the Morettis. Testimony about the relationship. Access to her files if you still have any. Contact information for the people she stole from. Whatever you need. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't contact Elena. Don't try to find her. They're professionals at disappearing. I left the FBI office and sat in my car. 2 days until the paperwork was final. 2 days to decide if I wanted to try to go back. But how could I go back? I'd facilitated theft. I'd helped a criminal rob my congregation. Even if the church would take me back, which they wouldn't, how could I stand at that altar knowing what I'd done? I drove to St. Anthony's. Parked across the street. Watched people going in for evening mass. Saw Mrs. Chen walking in. She'd lost $45,000 because of me. Saw Mr. Martinez. $30,000 gone because I'd trusted Elena. I couldn't go back there. Couldn't face them. Couldn't be their priest after leading a thief right to them. My phone buzzed. Text from Father Martin, my old spiritual director. Heard about Elena. I'm sorry. If you need to talk, I'm here. I texted back, can we meet? I need to figure out what to do. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. My office. I had 48 hours to figure out who I was. Priest or not. Victim or accomplice. Someone who could be forgiven. Or someone who destroyed too much to ever make right. The church bells rang for mass. I didn't go in. Just sat in my car and cried. For what I'd lost. For what I'd done. For the people who'd trusted me and paid the price for my stupidity. 2 days to decide. 2 days to become someone new. Or accept that I'd never be anyone at all. I called Mrs. Chen first. She'd lost $45,000. She deserved to know it was my fault. She answered on the third ring. Hello? Mrs. Chen, it's Michael Torres. Father Michael. I mean, just Michael now. Silence. Then, what do you want? I need to tell you something. About Elena. My wife. The grief counselor I introduced you to. I don't want to talk to you. Please. Just listen. The FBI is investigating her. She and her husband, who isn't actually dead, they've been stealing from people. From churches. I think she took money from you. More silence. I know she did. The FBI already talked to me. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I never would have. You brought her here. You vouched for her. You told me she was safe to trust. I thought she was. I thought. You thought wrong. And it cost me $45,000. Money my husband left me. Money I needed. Her voice cracked. I trusted you. We all trusted you. And you brought a thief into our church. I know. I'm sorry. If there's any way I can help. You can't. The damage is done. Don't call me again. She hung up. I tried Mr. Martinez next. Same result. He listened for 30 seconds then hung up. Sarah Williams wouldn't even answer. I drove to St. Anthony's. Asked to speak with Father Rodriguez, the priest who'd replaced me. The secretary looked uncomfortable. I'll see if he's available. He made me wait 20 minutes in the lobby where I used to work. Finally, she led me to his office. My old office. He'd changed everything. Different desk. Different pictures. Like erasing me completely. Michael. He didn't stand up. Didn't shake my hand. What can I do for you? I wanted to talk about Elena. About what happened. I've spoken with the FBI. I'm aware of the situation. I didn't know. I need you to understand that. I had no idea she was stealing from our parishioners. Yes, the FBI said you probably didn't know. He leaned back. But that doesn't change what happened, does it? No. You left us. Abandoned your vocation. Abandoned the people who needed you. Then you brought a criminal into our community. Someone who stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from vulnerable people. 200,000. At least. We're still finding more victims. He pulled out a file. Patricia Chen. Robert Martinez. Sarah Williams. David Kim. Margaret O'Brien. 8 people total. Some lost their life savings. Money for their kids' college. Medical bills. Retirement funds. All gone. Because you vouched for her. I thought she was helping them. You thought. You didn't check. Didn't verify. Just assumed because you were in love with her that she must be a good person. That's not fair. Isn't it? His voice was sharp. You made a decision based on feelings instead of wisdom. Left the priesthood for a woman you barely knew. Brought her into a community that trusted you. And now 8 families are financially devastated. I'm trying to help the FBI. Good. That's the least you can do. He stood up. But don't come back here. Don't try to apologize to the parishioners. Don't try to make this right. You can't. The damage is done. I used to be your priest. You stopped being our priest when you chose her over us. Now you're just the man who brought a thief here. Nothing more. Father Rodriguez. Leave. Please. I left. Sat in my car in the parking lot where I used to park every day for 6 years. Watched people come and go. People I used to know. Used to serve. None of them looked at me. I was a ghost. Worse than a ghost. A betrayer. My phone rang. Bishop Walsh's office. Mr. Torres, the bishop would like to see you. Can you come in today? When? Now, if possible. I drove to the diocese office. Same building where I'd requested to leave 18 months ago. Bishop Walsh looked older. Tired. Michael. Sit. I sat. I've been in contact with the FBI. About Elena Moretti. I didn't know what she was doing. I believe you. But that's not why you're here. He pulled out papers. There's been discussion at the diocese level. Questions about whether you were involved in the fraud. Whether you knowingly brought a criminal into the church. My stomach dropped. You think I helped her? I don't. But others are asking questions. The timing is suspicious. You leave the priesthood. Marry her. She gains access to your former congregation. She steals from them. It looks coordinated. It wasn't. I was manipulated just like everyone else. I believe you. But the optics are damaging. To you. To the church. To trust in clergy generally. He pushed papers across his desk. Your final paperwork. I need you to sign today. Make it official. So there's clear separation between you as a priest and you as her husband. So you're covering for the church. I'm protecting the church from further scandal. And I'm protecting you from being investigated as an accomplice. He met my eyes. Sign the papers. Stop being a priest. Move on. That's my advice. What if I want to fight this? What if I want to prove I wasn't involved? Then you'll spend years in legal battles. Lose what little reputation you have left. And probably still end up unable to return to ministry. He softened slightly. Michael, you made your choice 18 months ago. Now you have to live with the consequences. Even the ones you didn't anticipate. I looked at the papers. My name. My signature line. The end of Father Michael Torres. If I don't sign, then the paperwork processes automatically in 48 hours anyway. This just speeds it up. Gives you control over the narrative. There is no good narrative. No. There isn't. But there's damage control. I signed the papers. Watched Bishop Walsh witness it. Date it. File it. It's done, he said. You're no longer a priest. Effective immediately. I walked out of the diocese office for the last time. Not as Father Michael. Not even as Michael who used to be a priest. Just as Michael Torres. Man who destroyed his life for a lie. Man who helped a criminal rob his church. Man who'd been too stupid and lonely to see he was being used. I'd wanted 2 days to decide. Got 2 hours instead. Because the church decided for me. I wasn't one of them anymore. And I never would be again. Detective Mitchell called me 3 days later. We found them. Hotel near the airport. Packing to leave the country. We're moving in at 6 p.m. Do you want to be there? Why would I want that? Closure. Answers. Whatever you need. A pause. Or you can let us handle it and never see her again. Your choice. I thought about it. Thought about spending the rest of my life wondering if any of it had been real. I'll be there. She gave me the address. Told me to stay in the car until they'd secured the scene. I watched from across the parking lot as FBI agents surrounded the hotel. Watched them go in. Heard shouting. Saw them bring Elena and Marcus out in handcuffs 15 minutes later. Elena looked different. Her hair was shorter. Darker. She wore sunglasses even though it was evening. Playing a different character now. Mitchell came to my car. You want to talk to her? Will she talk to me? She's agreed to cooperate. Trying to reduce her sentence. I can give you 5 minutes. They put me in an interview room. Elena sat across from me, still handcuffed, Marcus in a different room somewhere. She looked at me and sighed. Michael. Was any of it real? The words came out before I could stop them. Just tell me that. Was any of it real? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, no. The word hit like a bullet. None of it. You were a job. A very successful job. But still just a job. How long were you planning this? We researched you for 4 months before I ever walked into that grief group. Watched your sermons online. Read your blog posts about struggling with loneliness and doubt. Found articles about your mom pressuring you to stay in the priesthood when you'd had questions during seminary. You read my blog? Every post. Marcus and I studied you like a textbook. Figured out exactly what you needed to hear. What kind of woman you'd fall for. The tragic widow who understood pain. The intellectual equal who could talk theology. The woman who made you feel less alone. She leaned back. I became exactly that person. The conversations we had, about faith, about doubt, about scripted. All of it. I mean, I improvised sometimes. But the core? The things that made you fall for me. Calculated. My hands were shaking. The night you told me you loved me. At the coffee shop. Was that fake too? That was the closing move. We'd invested a year. Needed you to make the jump. To leave the priesthood. Because that's when you became really useful, isolated from your community, desperate to prove the sacrifice was worth it, willing to introduce me to everyone you knew. I destroyed my life for you. You destroyed your life for a fantasy. For the idea of being special enough to make a priest break his vows. She tilted her head. You wanted to feel chosen. I chose you. Just not the way you thought. The door opened. Marcus was escorted in, also handcuffed. He looked at me with something like pity. Father. Sorry, ex-father. Why? I asked him. Why target priests? Because you're easy. He sat down next to Elena. You guys are trained to see the good in people. To believe in redemption. To want to save everyone. Elena showed up as my grieving widow. You wanted to save her. Wanted to heal her pain. Thought loving her was noble instead of stupid. I loved her. You loved the character she played. The real Elena. He gestured to the woman beside him. She's been running cons since she was 16. She's never loved anyone but herself. And maybe me, but that's complicated. Elena didn't deny it. The people from my church, I said. The ones you stole from. They trusted you because of me. That was the point, Elena said. Father Michael's recommendation was worth its weight in gold. Grieving widow gets counseling from a priest's fiancé. Of course they trusted me. You made it so easy. Mrs. Chen lost everything. Mrs. Chen was sitting on 100,000 in insurance money and looking for purpose. I gave her purpose. She just didn't know she was funding our retirement. She trusted you. She trusted you. I just borrowed that trust. Elena leaned forward. You want me to feel bad? I don't. This is what I do. You were a mark. A good one. But still just a mark. Mitchell knocked on the door. Time's up. I stood up. Looked at Elena one last time. I gave up everything for you. I know. That's what made it work so well. She almost smiled. If it helps, you played your part perfectly. Best priest we ever targeted. The others figured it out faster. You believed right until the end. Father Chen killed himself. The one from Chicago. Did you know that? Something flickered across her face. I heard. Does that bother you at all? Not my fault he couldn't handle reality. I turned to leave. Michael? Elena called out. I stopped. For what it's worth, there were moments I almost felt bad. You were kind. Genuine. Under different circumstances. She trailed off. But circumstances are what they are. And we all make choices. I walked out. Watched them take her and Marcus away. Two people who destroyed my life and didn't care at all. Who'd studied me like prey and hunted me perfectly. Who'd turned my loneliness into their profit. Mitchell walked me to my car. You okay? No. She's going away for a long time. 12 years minimum. Good. For what it's worth, you weren't stupid. You were human. And they're professionals at exploiting that. Doesn't make me feel better. I know. I drove home to my empty apartment. Sat in the dark. Thought about Father Chen in Chicago who hadn't been able to handle the truth. Thought about how easy it would be to do the same. But I'd destroyed too many people already. The least I could do was live with what I'd done. Even if living with it felt worse than dying. The trial took 3 months. Elena pleaded guilty to fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. Got 12 years in federal prison. Marcus got 15 for the gambling debts and faking his death and everything else. My testimony helped the FBI recover some of the stolen money. Not all of it. Not even half. But some. Mrs. Chen got $20,000 back of her $45,000. Better than nothing. Still a devastating loss. The others got similar percentages. Enough to survive. Not enough to be whole again. The scandal made national news. Priest leaves calling for con artist who robs his church. My face everywhere. The naive priest. The fool who'd been played. I stopped reading the articles after the first few. Stopped looking at social media. Deleted everything. The church finalized my paperwork without me signing. Bishop Walsh was right. It processed automatically. Father Michael Torres officially ceased to exist. I kept teaching theology at Lincoln High. The kids didn't know my story. To them, I was just Mr. Torres who made them think about big questions. I started going to a church across town where nobody knew me. Sat in the back. Didn't take communion. Just showed up and left quietly. Some Sundays it felt like coming home. Other Sundays it felt like visiting someone else's life. I volunteered at a nonprofit that helped people who'd escaped cults and scams. Answered phones mostly. Sometimes sat with people who'd been manipulated by someone they trusted. I was in a relationship with someone who seemed perfect, one woman told me. Turned out he was just studying me. Learning what I needed so he could use me. Does that ever stop hurting? I don't know yet, I admitted. I'm still figuring that out. Another victim, a man who'd lost his retirement to a spiritual guru scam, asked me, "Do you regret loving her? The woman who conned you?" I thought about it. I regret wanting to feel special so badly that I ignored all the warning signs. I regret thinking being chosen meant being loved. I regret every decision I made based on feelings instead of wisdom. But do you regret the love itself? I don't know if it was love. I thought it was. But if love is built on lies from the beginning, is it still love? Or is it just really good acting? I paused. I loved who I thought she was. But that person never existed. So what was I really loving? He nodded like he understood. Yeah. That's the hardest part. Realizing you fell in love with a performance. 6 months after the trial, I drove to my mom's house. I hadn't seen her in over 2 years. Not since I told her I was leaving the priesthood. She'd sent one text after the news broke, "I'm praying for you." Not, "I told you so." Not, "You deserve this." Just, "I'm praying for you." I knocked on her door at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. She opened it. Looked older. Grayer. Sadder. "Michael." "Hi, Mom." She didn't invite me in. Just stood in the doorway. "I'm not ready to forgive you yet," she said. "Maybe I never will be. What you did, leaving the priesthood, bringing that woman into the church, all of it, I'm still angry about it. I know. But I'm trying to understand that you got tricked. That she manipulated you. That doesn't erase what you did. Doesn't make it okay. But it means you're a victim too. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like an idiot who destroyed his life and hurt a lot of people. Maybe you're both." She disappeared into the house for a moment. Came back holding something. My grandmother's rosary. The one I'd used at my ordination. The one I'd left at her house when I moved into the rectory 8 years ago. "Keep praying," she said, handing it to me. "Even when it doesn't feel like it's working. Especially then. Mom. I'm not ready to have you back in my life yet. But I'm not closing the door forever either. I just need time." "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe a lot. Maybe." She trailed off. "Just keep praying. Keep trying to be better. And maybe eventually we'll figure it out." She closed the door gently. Not a slam. Not anger. Just, not ready. I stood there holding my grandmother's rosary and cried. Not reconciliation. But not total loss either. Something in between. I drove home to my apartment. Small. Plain. The life of a man starting over at 32 with nothing. I put the rosary on my dresser next to my priest collar. 2 artifacts from who I used to be. Sat on my second-hand couch and looked at my small life. No vocation. No wife. No community. No purpose except showing up every day and trying not to make things worse. I picked up the rosary. Started saying the prayers I'd memorized when I was 7 years old. Hail Mary, full of grace. The words felt empty. Hollow. Like saying them into a void. But I kept going. Our Father, who art in heaven. Because maybe faith wasn't about feeling God's presence. Maybe it was about showing up even when you felt nothing. Glory be to the Father. Maybe it was about trying even when trying felt pointless. I finished the rosary. Set it back on the dresser. Looked at my reflection in the dark window. Not Father Michael. Not Elena's husband. Not anything I'd planned to be. Just Michael Torres. Man who'd made the worst mistake of his life and was learning to live with it. No redemption arc. No happy ending. No moment where it all made sense. Just the slow, hard work of waking up every day and choosing to keep going. Some days I wasn't sure why I bothered. Other days I remembered Mrs. Chen and the others. Remembered I owed them at least the effort of trying to be better. I picked up the rosary again. Held it in my hands. Started the prayers over. Not because I believed they'd fix anything. But because trying was all I had left. And some days, trying had to be enough. Even when it didn't feel like enough at all. Even when it just felt like going through motions in an empty apartment, talking to a God who might not be listening anymore. Even then, I kept praying. Because maybe that's what faith was. Not certainty. Not joy. Not peace. Just showing up. Day after day. Prayer after prayer. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. It wasn't redemption. But it was something. And something, I was learning, was all any of us really got. The rest was just stories we told ourselves to make the pain mean more than it did. I was done with stories. Done with meaning. Just trying to survive. One prayer at a time. One day at a time. One breath at a time. It would have to be enough. Because it was all I had left. Thank you for watching Father in Love, a story about faith, betrayal, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild after losing everything. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think, please give it a like. It helps more people find powerful stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, gripping narratives. And if you want to hear what happens next, or have your own story to share, drop a comment below. Until next time, keep going. One breath at a time.